We're going on a trip in my favorite rockin' ship, blasting through your mind like surgic acid.
When there's stuff on your mind and it's feeling unclear, just hop on the mic and speak without fear. Let's air out.
What's going on, ladies and folks? How you guys doing? I'm doing well, doing very well. At a very much peace of mind state of mind, if you would say that. I'm doing well. I'm doing well. It's a beautiful Tuesday afternoon. Yeah, we'll get it out right now. I guess you guys already know it did not come out on Monday. Had a little delay due to what a lot of this podcast is going to be about, and what you heard in the intro. A little trip down memory lane with our pal lysergic acid diethylamine. Diethylamide? One of those two. We did acid yesterday, and yesterday was Monday, obviously, and it just got pushed, you know? I guess I don't really have an excuse for the Monday to Sunday following last week's episode, so kind of a cop-out answer. Don't got anything for you after that, but yeah, we did acid yesterday, and it threw off my whole schedule, because I was gonna work. I worked until 11, half day. And then normally I would just record the podcast, edit it, get it up by 8 p.m. Monday night. But hard to do when you're tripping on acid. But honestly, well worth it. And that's what I want to do in this episode, is kind of walk you through the acid trip last night. I talked about that documentary we watched with Michael Pollan last week. So hopefully you guys did your homework and watched that in preparation for this week's episode. There will be a quiz at the end. So hope you got your pencils ready. But so we kind of planned to do this initially on Saturday afternoon. We filmed a video on Saturday, actually, a sketch that I had an idea for, which is actually kind of a big deal too. I normally don't share my ideas, but we filmed that, and that was super fun and exciting. And the plan was, after Saturday, if we finished filming by 4 o'clock, then we're gonna drop acid. And then my plan was just stay up all night, which is not that hard on acid, and then go to work for the 3 hours on Sunday, still at the tail end of the acid trip when you're feeling really good, and then just come home and sleep all of Sunday, before going golfing Sunday afternoon, which we'll also get to later in this podcast, hopefully. But then we ended up filming till 5:30, and then at that point it was getting pretty late, and it's we literally have to take tabs right now. And then Ethan didn't really want to he was pushing it too late, and he didn't want to stay up that late into Sunday and then kind of ruin the rest of his Sunday. So we decided to push it until Monday, yesterday, because I knew I had a half day at work. And then there's still this I could still go to work on Tuesday even though it was a full day. It was, I kind of had the idea in me, but I decided pretty quickly on Monday that I'm just gonna, not commit to work on Tuesday, which I wish I told them before 4 o'clock this morning, when I was still on acid, but little details. So let me walk you through an entire acid trip now. You have the context that we did acid. So it all starts, I get home from work at 11, and we were planning to go at noon, take tabs and go. But I guess while I was at work, we were getting some texts from our landlord that just threw an entire wrench in our plan. He first off was hey guys, I'm coming by at 1 to get the furnace inspected and drop off some water salt. And we got this text at, I guess, 9 or 10, I want to say. I can't say for certain. I also don't have my phone on me. I wrote down my topics this time on Post-it notes, so I'm not fumbling around with my phone in the middle of a podcast like a baboon with a greasy banana trying to figure things out. So I'm not going to check key details, just going to focus on you guys. So he texts us that he's going to come by, and then also that Spencer, Spence the Menace, is sublet, is going to move in on Monday at 5 p.m., which would be, if you took acid at noon, you're pretty much right in the peak, the highest point of the acid, right at that moment, and we're like, that would be a real buzzkill. First off, more so just our landlord coming in at 1, unannounced, not giving us the 24 hours notice. Pretty much like an hour after we took acid, and like we don't know how long he's gonna be there. Just give you like a weird vibe. You don't want him around. And also like the courtesy of not giving us 24 hours is kind of weird, kind of unfair for us. Not as bad as like the last landlord. Not like a few landlords ago, Bob, who just was way worse, would not give 24 hours notice and would also just walk into your bedroom with new tenants while you're still in bed and show your bedroom while you're naked in bed, just covered up by sheets. So Ethan luckily took the reins on dealing with our landlord, and we did allow him to come check the furnace because I guess he had an appointment with an inspector. So like, okay, that's fair. But then we convinced him to talk to the subletter and be like, hey, move in tomorrow, move in on Tuesday rather than Monday. And that kind of freed up the rest of our afternoon. So finally, rather than, supposed to be tripping at 4 p.m. on Saturday, we're now at 2:45 on Monday. And we're finally putting tabs in our mouth. And so it takes once you put the tabs in, just little square pieces of paper. So we each did 5 tabs. Each one's 100 micrograms. So you stick this piece of paper in your mouth and just let it soak in for like half an hour. And you don't really feel anything until usually like at the end of the half hour, you're getting like a tingly sensation, like you're starting to feel it kick in. So that finishes at like 3:15. Then Martin goes upstairs to take a shower and get cleaned up, feel good for the trip. And Ethan and I sit down and turn on the Beatles. We're watching the Get Back on Disney Plus. It's like all this like behind the scenes footage that they recorded for the Beatles' final album. I don't know if they knew it was going to be the final album when they started this documentary and this film, but it's pretty much they have like 2 weeks to write and record. They had a lot of songs pre-written, it seems, but like not every song was fully flushed out and practiced with an entire band. So 2 weeks to fully write and record an entire album, and then capped off by a live performance at the end of the album, like their first live performance in years, like a few years. They'd just been doing studio albums. So we were watching that as like the acid is slowly kicking on, and it's super interesting footage. Like it's just, there's no like narrator in this documentary like interviewing the Beatles and talking about, what's your creative process behind this song. It's just like cameras in the room and just watching the interactions between the band and like the people on this, the studio, and just like very organic, candid footage. So watching that, like super fun to watch as you're coming up on acid, 'cause you're getting this like warm, comforting feeling. And it's almost like you're hanging out with the Beatles, because you're casually just like riffing, making jokes back and forth, which was most of the documentary is them just chatting. There's not like a ton of the music in it. There's a ton of music in it, but like short segments of songs broken up by longer periods of them shooting the shit. So like as the acid's kicking in, kind of your eyes start to betray you. But the thing I found with acid is like your vision will like start to waver and wander, and everything gets like this motion to it, and like you're starting to lose focus on things. It's not as crazy as we've seen like representations of it. It was always seemed to be like over exaggerated, but just there's like a movement to your life, and like you do feel kind of shaky, which if you're not used to it, it can be like kind of a weird uncomfortable feeling, because your body's like involuntarily doing stuff, shaking, and you're hot and you're cold and you don't know what's going on, unless you've done acid before, then you do know what's going on. But yeah, your eyes are betraying you, but your ears are like work perfectly fine, so you almost hear music more clearly. So like as the footage is kind of getting weirder and like faces are starting to like bubble around into form, and you're seeing like the colors are getting more unsaturated or changing around, but then the music starts getting better and better. So after we watched the Beatles for about 45 minutes, Martin came down, and we're getting close to the peak. Usually kicks in like 2 hours in, I want to say 2 hours, and then lasts from 2 to 4 hours. The stuff we used to do years ago, it would last closer to 2 hours, but this latest batch we've been doing, which we've only done it once before, we did it back in April, I want to say. Like I just started at Westmount, And that was a different experience too, because we were having people over and they were drinking, so it's getting this different vibe of people on acid and other people not on acid, which is not something I'm used to. Every time I've ever done acid before, it's just been only people on acid, which is a lot easier to like. You guys are kind of like all synced up on the same wavelength when you're on acid, when you're all on acid. So it is weird trying to like conversate with people not on acid because they're not following the trains of thoughts and how like your attention's just darting all around. And if you're on acid, like every moment feels significant. So it's like very easily to go immediately from one conversation, like a really funny conversation, to like a serious like tonal shift conversation. And when you're on acid, like it's like nothing happened. Like you just immediately into this new conversation, into this new moment. Whereas I think it's kind of like more jarring for people not on acid because the entire tonal shift of the conversation has changed, and they're like, yo, what just happened? Like, why did your entire demeanor just change in an instant? Where was I going with that? But yeah, the stuff we did was much stronger than what we're used to. So we finished the Beatles, and then we decided we kind of had like this baseline plan of like a few albums we wanted to listen to, which albums are great on acid because, like I said, your eyes are kind of like doing some weird things, but your ears are better than ever. So first we had Ethan came in with his album, Euphrates by The Main Ingredient. Incredible album. The only song I had known beforehand was Everybody Plays the Fool, which if you haven't heard that, very fun song, very good song. Give that a listen. So then Ethan wanted to listen to the entire album. I think he had also heard Summer Breeze from them, their cover of Summer Breeze. So we listened to that, and honestly, I think it might be my favorite thing to do on acid is listen to an album, because I like laid on the couch, and our couch is very soft, and like there's no support. So for most people, they hate that couch because it just kills your back, and like your body's never in a comfortable, like well supported position. But for me, I just love to like sink into it, like I'm sitting on a massive beanbag chair, and then I brought my weighted blanket down and put the weighted blanket on me, and I brought a pillow down, and I was just snuggled up in bed. I had my acid outfit on, which is like these blue tie-dye pants and this NASA crew neck sweater that I had tie-dyed a few summers ago with the page peepers back in Barrie, and then my Bert and Ernie socks pulled up taut. So yeah, I'm all snug as a bug, wrapped up in bed, and then you click play on the album, and I just learned it like a few trips ago. It's just, for me, the best way to do it is just like close your eyes and just kind of you get fully engulfed in the music. It's almost like you're sitting, it feels physically like you're sitting in the music, like in a hot tub of music. It's very hard to explain, but like it just entirely encapsulates like 360. You're surrounded by the music. And like I said, your ears are working better, so you're hearing like every fine detail of the song, and you're like appreciating like the artistry behind it, and like every sound you hear, you're like that was like planned and placed there and like tuned perfectly to get this sound. Well, at least you'd hope so for a well-produced album. So you just like you're appreciating the artisanship and like all the the work and the beauty of this song they put together, and like the emotions that they're trying to convey in the song, and like you feel those so much stronger than if you're just like listening to it on a walk absent-mindedly. It's kind of like background music to you, when it's the entire like purpose of your universe. When you're on acid listening to that song, it's the greatest experience. Like I don't think there's a better way to appreciate music than just like living in it. So we put on the album, and I just lay back, close my eyes, and just kind of like let the music dictate where the thoughts in my brain is gonna go, and like what visions it's gonna create in my head. So the downside to closing your eyes is you don't have this like visual like reminder, because we're just casting it on Spotify, of when the songs are ending and like when one bleeds into the next. So like a 37 to 40 minute album feels just like really one long 40-minute song that's all just they're bleeding in and out. Like you can hear like the songs die down. I mean, not all albums are like independent songs. Some of them will actually like, lead one into the other. But in this instance, they were all like, independent songs. Yeah, so it feels like one long song, and you don't have this, you can't like pick out like, oh, I really enjoyed that song afterwards, which is tough. Like because that's part of the fun of acid is like watching a video or listening to something, and then afterwards gonna talk to the boys about it and like what did they experience and like how did they find it, what did they enjoy about it, did they hear stuff that you weren't hearing. So that's always a super fun experience. So we listened to Euphrates, like I said, and after that point, so we watched the Beatles for like 45 minutes, Euphrates for 40 minutes, and now we're pretty much like getting right to the start of the peak. And usually I'm used to like listen to an album, open my eyes, and I'm like less on acid than when we started the album. And in this instance, I opened my eyes and I was more on acid. So like the walls are like jittering and vibrating more, and there's just, my eyes are like going in and out of focus. I don't even know what creates these things going on in your brain. I don't know. I can't explain it to you, honestly, which is the worst part about all this entire story is I can't explain acid to you. Like, it's just something you'd have to experience. There's no words in our vocabulary to explain the feeling and the sensations you get while on acid. And like I would recommend it to absolutely anybody. I think it's like a once in a lifetime experience that even if you don't enjoy that one time, it would give you insights and like, just make you a better person and appreciate like the people you have around you and like the life you have and the world around you far better. It makes the insignificant things that we think are so important just kind of fall away, and everything that's really important, which is like love, as cliche as that sounds, like love and like companionship and just like being with other people and like just enjoying your time, it just makes that really shine forward. I remember like listening to the album and I'm like, it's so cool that the only job I really have in this universe is just to exist. Like that's all I have to do is to get through life, is I just have to exist and like enjoy it and just see what happens. I had no stresses. I'm just gonna chill here, listen to music and exist, and it is absolutely like peaceful bliss. I loved it. So after we listened to Euphrates, then it was my turn for an album, and I wanted to listen to Boston by Boston. Their first album, probably like one of the best rock albums of all time. Maybe one of the best albums of all time, honestly, but I guess that's down to your musical preference. It was also like a big vibe shift. All three albums we picked just happened to be all like very different, different feelings to them. I don't even know how to describe the Euphrates by the Main Ingredient. I'm not very good at like classifying music artists. I don't know. I'm just gonna look up real quick. I said I wasn't gonna fool around with my phone, but I am fooling around on Google. Yeah, like a soul and R&B group. Cuba Gooding Sr., if you know the actor Cuba Gooding Jr. Cuba Gooding Sr. His father was in The Main Ingredient. So there's a little fun fact for you. So we went from R&B and soul into rock, which I really wanted to listen to Boston. I've heard every song on the album a ton of times before, but I don't know the last time I listened to like the full album. And then just being on acid, like I said, just that other layer of like appreciating it even more. So still wrapped up in my little weighted blanket taco, we listened to Tom Scholz's masterpiece, Boston. And I mean, my first actually the first thing I heard when the album kicked off was like it sounded more muffled and like it sounded worse produced than Euphrates, which I'm like is strange to me because the production on that album is like what sets it apart. And like how this one guy, Tom Scholz, just like played all the instruments but drums, and he didn't sing, but like created everything else. So I was like going in, I'm like, well, this is gonna be like the perfectly produced album. And then it was like kind of disappointing off the rip because it was like super muffled. And then I realized I had a blanket wrapped around my head, and there's just a big wad of blanket on each side of my ears, like I'm Princess Leia lying down there. And once I took that blanket off, it got a lot clearer. I wish I could tell you guys like what I was seeing when I had my eyes closed listening to the album. I can't even remember it myself. There's like with acid, you keep your mind, which is a very like important part of it. I think a lot of people are afraid of like losing themselves and not knowing what's going on and like losing their personality, and they're gonna be stuck like this forever. But you keep your consciousness and you are still yourself, even like a better version of yourself, because all like your ego and your insecurities are like stripped away, and you're just left with this pure essence of who you are. So okay, I'm just giving myself tangents, and I'm not following where I'm going with them because I'm still like a little bit It's just like there's like a brain fog. My brain was working overtime for the past almost going on 24 hours ago. I guess like 21 hours ago. My brain was just firing on all cylinders on the acid. So it is. We are running a little slower today. But yeah, I don't know what I saw on acid. I do remember the feeling of like wanting to be with someone. Like I remember the feeling of like wanting to have a companion. That was like an overwhelming thought through all three of these albums. It's like, you know, I wish there was a woman here that I could like snuggle up with under this blanket and like enjoy this music with her, you know? And it's great like listening to music with the boys. You know, don't get me wrong, I had a great time. But sometimes you want like a little, you know, a cuddle buddy, someone just to like nuzzle up to and just, you know, you don't even have to talk about the album, but just like knowing you're both enjoying it and appreciating it at the same time. I remember that being like a recurring thought of like, who would I want to listen to this album to? Who do I want to listen to this album with? Yeah, so Boston is a banger. Like, just, I remember Smokin' came on and like that keys solo that just goes on. I think I told it to Ethan, I was like, I know what's coming, but it still surprises me. And that's like just a great place to be with at music, when like, you know how great it is, and still when it comes, like, oh, that's how great it is. I forgot how great it is. I thought I knew, and I was wrong. And that's like, oh, it just fires you right up. Like, just, I mean, Euphrates had, you know, fast-paced songs and slower songs. And Boston's a lot of like just go, 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 go. So it does like, it jazzes you back up, gets your energy going. And then after Boston, I think we, again, open my eyes even more on acid now. Boston's like a 35-minute album or something. So we're like an hour 45 in to the trip, which means we're not even technically like into the peak yet. And it's still like, the world's swimming around, you're getting really hot. I remember I was like, boys, is it 1,000 degrees in here? And as soon as I said it, I immediately like dropped like 100 degrees in temperature. And I'm like, oh, no, actually, no, now I'm fine. Now I draw attention to it. It's all done. And then the last album we listened to, I'm gonna have to look this up. I think it was Renata. I can just look up. Renata Zagir. This was Martin's pick. And we listened to her album Old Ghost from 2018, and knew nothing about her going in. I was giving Martin like a little like a late night tonight, you know, interviewing him before the album, asking him some questions, how he found it through the Discover Weekly, listened to 2 songs, and it's like, you know what, I want to listen to this full thing on acid. And they described her afterwards. I was asking like, what kind of music is that? As like a modern psychedelia, which works really well on acid because psychedelia for psychedelics. It's I find what those albums, like psychedelic albums, do well, kind of like a similar thing that Dark Side by Pink Floyd, Dark Side of the Moon, I felt the same sentiment towards it. Is like the empty space they leave in the songs, just like ambient air, but like they're still just doing little things musically, like the song's still going on even though it feels like, you know, the chorus and verses and the melody has been stripped away, and you're just listening to this like this in-between state, and you're waiting for the song to kick back in. Like that ambient sound, that's as best as I can describe it. And you sit in that for a while, and it gets your thoughts going, and then the chorus kicks back in, or a verse kicks back into like that same melody that you know, and it just gets your energy right back up, and like, I remember this. Yes, this is incredible. So a lot of experiences like that on this Old Ghost album. I kind of want to listen to it again because this was the hardest one for me to follow. It flowed together the best, I feel like. Also, like, not knowing any of the songs, so I didn't really know when a song was done, and then if there was like a little silence and it started back up, I don't know if we're still on the same song or if like the song has changed. So it was tough to follow. But really, like, the exact same experience was just like, I want to share this experience I'm having, this like enjoyment I'm having with the music with other people. And that's like a very recurring sentiment you have on acid, or at least I do, is like, I just want to share this with people. I just want to like be with people and like, you know, hang out with people. So we got through those 3 albums, all 3 like very different, and I can't pick a favorite because each one gave me like a very unique experience, and I enjoyed all the music. I really think I could listen to anything on acid and enjoy it way more. I was just thinking this morning that like I never really gave Bob Dylan a shot. So maybe I should listen to some Bob Dylan next time we do acid and get like an appreciation for him. Because I know now like I'm gonna go on Spotify and like add a bunch of songs that I just heard last night into my album. So maybe that's a good way to like open up my mind and like accept, you know, more artists and get away from this. You know, I've told myself I don't like Bob Dylan, therefore I just don't listen to Bob Dylan. And acid's a great way to like destroy that barrier and just go in with a completely open mind and listen to it, you know, freely. So we finished all the albums. We're like, I don't know what time it is now. We're probably like 2.5 hours into the trip. So again, open my eyes again. Still even more on acid. And the next thing we had decided to do was we're gonna watch Soul, the Disney and Pixar movie. If you haven't seen it, incredible movie. I think I've seen it. This might have been my 5th or 6th time watching it, and like Ethan and I had just watched it 3 or 4 months ago. So like I watched it this year. I remember when it first came out, I watched it one night with my family, and the next night I was at Sarah's house, and I'm like, let's watch this movie again. So like it's a movie I never get sick of. A movie about a jazz musician who's kind of chasing his dream and then dies and then learns about what's really important in life. And you know, I think the main message is like don't get too caught up in having like a one purpose in life. Like your purpose is just to live, and that's it. And that's like you know, it's one of those things that gets you thinking, especially on acid. It invigorates that feeling I had of like I just have to exist, and like it brings you at peace with that. And then also the fact like it's an animated movie and there's a lot of cool shit going on in the movie that I remember watching at points of it. I'm like, I don't know if this is real life footage or an animated movie still, like really high quality. Like our technology has come a crazy far away. And also the whole time it's like this giddiness because Martin had never seen it before. So it's like I want it to end so then I can like, Martin, what'd you think of that? Did you enjoy that? Was that a good time? So yeah, Soul lasted like an hour and a half. And I don't know what else I could say about Soul. I thought, honestly, I was like, I remember the entire trip. Now I can just sit down on the podcast and just give you guys like an easy breezy walkthrough. And I find I remember the events that happened. Much harder to remember your thoughts on that event because there's just so many, like I said, just swimming in and out. And you're just always constantly changing your attention and just jumping right into the next thing to the other. There's especially when you're on the peak, it's like it gets hard to communicate. Like you can think really well, you can hear really well, can't see great, but your ability to like the brain to mouth connection is just not there. Forming like a clear, concise thought. Like imagine in your head you think of a thought and it's like each word is a puzzle piece. You know, in your head, it is all perfectly constructed. But then when you try to send that signal of that puzzle from your brain down to your mouth, like the pieces all come apart and you don't know which order they're going to come out to your mouth. So then you're like trying to rebuild this thought that you just had as you're saying it, trying to like rebuild the puzzle as it's coming out, and you just cannot articulate it as well as you like initially thought it. And it's really frustrating because like I just want to share this sentiment with you guys and I just can't do it. And you're just like bumbling through your words and you're like looping back on yourself trying to like find that original thought that it's gone now. Like it is sunk back into the acid timeline and it's now just a part of history. It's just a carving on inside your brain, a caveman's carving of what that thought once was. Again, where was I going with that train of thought? It's this exact experience I'm having right now of starting a sentence and then not remembering where it's going. It also very frequently happens on acid. Yeah, so we finished Soul. This is going to be such a disjointed podcast. We finished Soul. We were feeling good. So we had to do our daily yoga, which I think it almost... Okay, I was going to say it lined up at like 4 o'clock, and then I realized we dropped acid at 2:45, and we're already way past 4 o'clock. But we were going to do yoga. And the plan was Ethan suggested doing the like a 45-minute full body yoga. He had done that on acid before, and it's like a good check-in to see kind of like a physical test, you know, like see how you do this video a bunch of times to see like how much easier all the moves are doing. It's a 45-minute video, so it's like a more intensive one than like the 20-minute ones we're usually used to doing. But we decided first off we will follow the daily routine that we've been doing that Adrian put together. It was yoga for teachers, and I'm still like visually, your body feels great. I will say that my body felt super strong. I remember looking at my arms and being like, man, my arms, they're so vascular and I look so strong and I feel powerful in my body. Like I feel like a barbarian, absolutely ready to go. And so we get our yoga mat set up and we got Adrian going, and your eyes are still like betraying you. You got no idea what's going on. And we were crying, laughing, sitting on the mat because Adrian's like sitting in a pretty like very bright like white room, and directly behind her is a window, kind of like the one you see in the corner of my house, like one of those double wide windows, and there's like a nice forest behind her. But just the brightness of the window combined with the acid and like the brightness of the room just like super washed out and saturated the forest behind her, so it looked like it was on fire, like she's doing yoga on the surface of the sun. And I'm crying because she was so peaceful and like calm with it as the world is exploding behind her. And it's like I think of Adult Swim, like those like weird, those weird like late night shows that are like absurdist and like abstract videos, where it's like it was like Adrian sitting in her bedroom with like a shitty green screen on her back window of the like a forest on fire. So we were just crying, laughing during that. But then you also have moments of like Martin and I are crying, laughing, and then maybe like 10 seconds later, Ethan, since he was sitting around the corner from the TV, he saw it after us and could like put his glasses back on and see what's going on. And then Ethan starts laughing, but in that like 10 seconds, I had stopped laughing, and then my brain had like gotten off that that segment of this is really funny and like onto a new one. So then you have these weird moments of like Ethan's laughing really hard, and like I recognize what he's laughing at and I want to laugh with him, but my brain is just like already off laugh mode. So I'm like kind of like acting out the laughing, but like in my head I'm like, I'm not feeling the authentic, genuine laugh. It's gone. And you have these like weird moments on acid where like you'll say something, and it's almost like saying something mundane and normal. But then it feels like in your side of you, like you just like shared a secret, because like the tonal shift, and like sometimes you'll catch it and you'll feel that the mood has shifted. Usually on acid, if you just like, what you should do is just like embrace what's going on right now and just kind of like flow through every second. But you can get caught up on like, if you focus in and get caught up on how like rapidly time is changing, but also feels like it's not changing at all. You can get caught in these like time loops and that's when you get like panic attacks and stuff like that, and realize like the time dilation that's going on, you feel wild. Just get these weird moments of like when you catch the tonal shift, it feels like you just like told a secret that you shouldn't have. So like you just feel uncomfortable with the other people and like awkward, and like you're not, like you don't belong there. And then that again, you just find the wave and you just hop back onto the acid wave and you ride it out. Yeah, so we did it was a 30-minute yoga, and honestly I felt really good. Like I said, I felt really strong and powerful. I was getting deep into my folds and like going further than I ever could. Bad idea though, because I woke up this morning and my legs are just like they're stretched 2 inches longer than they should have been. Honestly, like all my tendons and muscles and my hamstrings are they're all stretched out, and now they're like collapsing back in, and yeah, my legs are super tight and painful. We did some weird poses that we'd never done before, and I just, since I was on acid, I'm like, there's no barrier to telling my body when to stop. That mind to body connection, it feels great, but also like the signal to say this hurts is like turned off. So I just got way too deep into the poses, and also like repeatedly, it felt like she was ending the video. Because we've done so many of these yoga videos that you can tell the vibe and like the pacing of when the video is going to end, especially knowing like how long the video is. You can kind of tell like what poses are coming up. You can be like, okay, we're probably like 5 minutes from the end. And on multiple occasions, we're all like, okay, this is the last pose. And then she just moved to another one. And like, okay, this has got to be the last pose. And then she just moved to another one. And we were crying, laughing at that too. It was super fun. We were like, we all thought it was done. Yeah. This is gonna be. I feel like there's gonna be a lot of moments in this podcast where it was really funny and me in the moment because I was on acid, like having a good time, and the stories just don't translate to the post like afterwards, but I'm sharing this because I had a really good time. It was a lot of fun. So we did that 30 minutes of yoga, and then after that we were feeling really good, we were feeling fired up, so we decided to go for a walk. And honestly, my only hesitation with going for a walk, it was like 9 o'clock, and I had already determined that I was not going to work on Tuesday. My plan was to like tell them after work on Monday that I'm like, hey, I'm not gonna be in tomorrow. Sorry, something came up. And then I didn't do that because I'm a procrastinator. And I'm like, I'll send a text later. And I was like, I have to like time this text well. So if I text too early, that's like, it's suspicious. But if I text like too late, I didn't want to like, not give them enough time to figure out what to do for the day, which there's not a ton to do anyways. They're not like, gonna be lost without me. Yeah, so we decided to go for a walk, and I was worried that on this walk, since like a lot of my coworkers live in the area, I'm like, what if I see someone, I work with, and they're gonna see me like just being, I'm gonna look fine. If they talk to me, they'd probably like, this guy's bugging out, because I just cannot string a sentence together because of the acid. But like I was worried they were gonna see me walking around, and then the next day I'm just not at work, and they're like, yeah, we literally Aaron just walked through our backyard at like 10:30 at night with two of his friends. Like I don't know why he's not here. But it was absolutely a beautiful walk. Like nature, that's on top of listening to music. I think nature is like my second most favorite thing to do on acid. I guess my first favorite thing is to like hang out with other people. That's my number one. And on this walk, I remember just having like the overwhelming feeling of like I wish there was more people here. Like I wish we had like a big group of people. I didn't even care what people. It wasn't like a thing of specific people. I just wanted a big group of people all experiencing this, and just like having a bunch of people I can go and like chat with and talk to them about like what's going on with them, like what's going on in your life. Hey, how are you doing? What's going on? Yeah, so I was really feeling that. So we just walked around the neighborhoods. Like Waterloo has like all these trails between houses, and it is weird because like the trails go behind people's backyards and they don't have back fences. It just like it's wide open up onto the walking trail. So it is kind of weird. Like at the start, we were like kind of having louder conversations because I was just asking Martin, how big can cloud get? How big can clouds get? And then also how small can clouds get? And honestly, the guy couldn't really give me a straight answer, which is tough because Martin is an encyclopedia. And that's where I kind of learned on this trip too, is that like Martin knows way more than me. And I can just use that to my advantage and just like not know stuff myself. I can just ask Martin now. Like it's just way easier. You don't have to know a lot of things if you just know what like the right questions to ask and like who to ask. So that's kind of my new philosophy on life, is just don't study. Just ask people questions and they'll tell you the answer. It saves you a lot of time. You do have to have a lot of trust and just like believe whatever answer it is they tell you, because I'm not going to fact check them. But yeah, asking Martin questions on the walk, and then we ended up getting to like partway through the walk. It like opens up into this basketball court and like a big field, and the whole time I kept staring up at the sky and like just witnessing how big the sky is. And like the sky, honestly, if you haven't looked up there, huge, absolutely massive. It just, if you just like try and follow it, it just goes on, seems to go on forever. Like I don't know where it ends. I couldn't find it, but it's absolutely massive. Clouds are really big too. Like looking at a cloud above the sky, it's like a big spaceship just hovering above you. And it makes you feel so small, but not like in a scary way, in like a relaxing way that like, oh, I'm pretty insignificant and that's great. Like I'm not as important as I think. I can chill out about a lot of things because I'm not going to make I'm not going to make a meaningful impact on the world and the universe as a whole. I can make a meaningful impact on the people's lives I'm with. I can like impact them and make sure they have a great, life, that we all get to spend this, very narrow time frame on this planet together. But in the grand scheme of things, I'm not making a dent, So it's very relaxing. So we got to this big park, and then Martin and I laid down on the grass, and we're just like staring up at the sky, and just a great experience. I've done this before on acid. Just like you get lost in the stars, and I really want to experience doing acid with like a group of 5 or 6 people at like a cottage or something, and just like laying on the dock at night. I feel like I could do that all night. Like put a little speaker on, just lay on the ground and stare up, and then just like having chats with the boys like that. That sounds like my perfect night, honestly. You'd feel so connected to everybody, and I don't think you couldn't have a bad time. People are so worried about having a bad trip, but it's all like, set and setting, your mindset going in, and, the setting, where you are, who you're with. And I think a dark, calm night, clear sky with stars, some music going on with your closest friends, like that's if that's not the perfect setting, I don't know what else is. So yeah, I don't know how long we laid on the grass just staring at the sky. I was having this like experience of like looking at the clouds, and my eyes are kind of like pulling focus, like trying to focus in and like resolve the resolution of the clouds. And I could never get it. I could never like find where the edges of the clouds are. And it's just always had this fuzziness. But through the holes in the clouds, you could see this like perfectly beautifully lit like night sky, like perfectly clear. Stars were super bright. And that was just bliss. You're just at peace, still just like talking on and off with Martin and Ethan. And I did have this like, there is this worry that like, Martin and I are lying down, and Ethan's sitting, 'cause he's not big into bugs, and like he's not a camper. So I did have this like, oh, I'm worried I'm taken away from Ethan, because Ethan wanted to go for the walk. I'm worried I'm taken away from his experience by like now sitting down and lying down on this walk, and like taking a lot of time out of his walk. But he was fine with it. That's just, I guess it's just empathy, and like, I want to make sure everyone's having a good time. So yeah, we sat there for a while, then got back up and went for the walk. And like the initial part of the walk past our house is like, on sidewalks, and the streets are lit up. Your night vision is not good because, like I said, your eyes are kind of doing weird things to an acid. You have like not a great distance of like visibility, and like things in the dark can like pop out and like startle you. So after we got off the like all the streetlight portions, and we're walking through these paths like through people's backyards, it just gets like more and more forested, and there's no lights. So at one point we're just walking through this narrow forest, like trees on both sides, and then like backyards just past the trees, like just a very thin line of trees. And this trail usually when I do it, I'm just like, I got headphones in, and I'm just blasting through, like not really paying attention to what I'm doing. I just know where I'm going, kind of like on autopilot, just point my feet and they go. But this time, I have no music in, and you're on acid, and every moment is significant. So the walk just felt so much longer, but also like I had maybe 3 feet of visibility that I could see in front of me. It was pitch black, and my eyes aren't adjusting well to the light. And I was just like trucking forward. Ethan and Martin are behind me. I'm kind of just like, paving the way. I remember at one part, Ethan's like, he walked up to see me. He's like, wow, it's way darker up here. And like, cause I was leading the way. He's like, that's interesting. That's like an interesting dynamic. I wonder if that's just like your brain. Like since I'm in the front, I'm like walking into like the unknown stuff, but then behind me, I've kind of like paved a way of like everything behind me is probably lighter, and I'm kind of like a flashlight going forward, which I mean, I can't experience that because I was the flashlight, and I can't like switch spots with them and see myself from their point of view, but I assume that's kind of like what was going on. And there's always like different vibe changes on this one trail. Like there's a portion where like someone has like a well manicured hedge beside them with like a little garden gate, and then I get like Lord of the Rings vibe from that, and I'm getting everyone's got like their back lights on, there's like lights coming between the trees, and it's a super peaceful. Again, I was just like, man, I wish more people were here to hang out with. I wish like I want to like really want to do this move where like you slap your arm around someone's shoulder and like walk with them and like kind of sway back and forth and chat and giggle and talk about life. That's like that's what I really want to feel that. Which I could have just done it with Ethan and Martin, but like the Ethan's taller than me, Martin's shorter than me. I need someone like my height, the right heighted person to slap that arm around. I remember at one point on the walk, I didn't really know what I was seeing, so like there was this like kind of fear that there's gonna be like a coyote or like a fox or something on the path, or like a rabid raccoon that I'm not gonna see. I'm just gonna get attacked by an animal in the darkness and not be able to fight back because I can't see it. And there was a brief moment where like I saw like just the way the gravel was on the ground, and there's like water had run through it, so it's kind of like it was like a trail between it, and just the way it had broken up. I looked down on the ground and I saw a dead body that like right beside me, and like jumped and stepped to the side, but it was only for like an instant, like a flash of a second, and then my brain's like, that's not a dead body, that's just ground. So that was like the only spooky part of the walk. And it went on like I think we were chatting in the beginning, but then we all kind of just like fell into this autopilot, as I called it. Like your feet are going, I know where I'm going, so like I don't have to think about anything. I just kind of turn my brain off, kind of like look around me and just enjoy a nice peaceful walk on acid. And that was incredible. So if I haven't sold you on acid yet, listening to music, watching Disney movies, doing yoga, going for a walk, like this ain't your normal drug. This ain't your normal intoxicant. They described it in the How to Change Your Mind documentary, that like going from the like a normal bomb to the atomic bomb is like going from a regular intoxicant to LSD. Like they're just completely different, like it's tiers. Like just one's exponentially different than the other. Like so if you've been drunk, you've been high, you still don't know what like LSD is like. You can't compare it to either of those experiences. So we get back from the walk, and this is now like the we're getting tired. We're getting to like the wind down stage, which honestly, it might be like one of the best portions of like the trip, because like you're like getting your mind back, and you still have this. It's this weird feeling on acid where it's almost like you're in a dream the whole time. Like your brain is both it feels tired and fatigued, but you're like more alert and awake than you've ever been before. So it's this weird feeling, like when you close your eyes and open your eyes, it like the feeling doesn't change, which I don't know if that's a good way to describe it, but it's sometimes you close your eyes and like the world kind of shuts off a bit and like it feels different. But on acid, like you feel more tired when you close your eyes. But on acid, it's the same. Eyes closed, eyes open. Your brain's just equally as active and like just equally processing things. It's just when you're not having that visual stimulation, your brain just starts creating the images in your head rather than, looking at things. So we get to like the wind down, where we all just like, get cozied up in our spot on the couches, and you just like chat and just like throw on YouTube videos and just like, whatever conversation you're on, someone's just like, oh, just throw on a video about it. We watched like a video on the creation of life, biogenesis, which I couldn't follow a ton of it. I know he made the video in unregistered power video maker. That was a watermark on the entire video. So I think I'm gonna have to look up into that program for making some YouTube videos, getting some editing done. Maybe for this short, we just filmed. I'll make that on Power Video Editor Maker, whatever it was. And yeah, it was just like a lot of back and forth of like chatting conversations. Ethan and Martin were telling me this guy Crazy Dave, who I absolutely like, just from hearing stories of him, fell in love with him. This like 40-year-old dude that was like an undergrad at Waterloo, and he claims it's cheaper for him to stay at a hotel than to rent a room in Waterloo for the term. And like he just has no boundaries, so they gave him like a little bit of a leash to like do some studies, and then he just like would hang out in the offices and like just live there. Yeah, so I was cracking up just hearing stories about Crazy Dave. Yeah, and then we'd like throw on videos about video games. We throw on videos about music, videos about like whatever, and that's how like the final like 3 to like 6 hours of your acid trip goes. Acid, it kind of like goes in waves the entire time. So like even when you're peaking, you'll hit like the maximum, the most acid you're on, and then it'll drop down, and then it'll peak back up to like just about where that was, but back down. So it's just this like constantly like cresting and falling wave, just getting shorter and shorter, until it's like finally out of your system, and like the repetition is all done. So like throughout the wind down stage of the night, you're kind of like going through moments of like the acid kicks back up, and you're energized again, and you're ready to get into new stuff, and then it drops back down, and you're relaxed, and you get quiet, and you're ready to go to bed, but you can't go to bed, like you can feel it. So like yeah, I get in these moments of like really into the conversation, and then once I fall out of the conversation, I get into like moments where like I don't want to talk anymore, and then I just keep my mouth shut, but then I kind of want to get back into the conversation, and it's like you gotta start the engine again, you gotta start it cold. Yeah, that was really like the wind down. I think at 4 a.m, I had an alarm set to text my boss that I wasn't going to make it to work. This was like kind of weighing on my mind the entire time of the trip. It's like, how am I going to word this text? Because I knew I was going to come on a podcast the next day and immediately fess up that I was on acid and I wasn't sick. So I didn't want to lie to him over text. And I was like, how do I word this? And also, I was at like, because in my head I'm feeling really good on acid, so I want to text him like, hey, I'm not gonna make it in today. We'll explain tomorrow. Have a good one. You're like being like super like casual and friendly and like you chill. But then I had to be like, on his point of view, he's not gonna be on acid. He's gonna be waking up at 5 a.m. to read a text that one of his employees is not gonna be at work in an hour. probably not gonna be in the same mood as I am. So I had to like play around with it and just send a very quick like, I'm not gonna make it in tomorrow. Sorry for the short notice. And just like, I mean, I probably could have done better than that, but I'll see him tomorrow and I'll explain it, and I'm not gonna get in trouble. Like this, I've worked very hard this season, and I've never called in sick. So figured I was due for a day off. I was due for W. Yeah, so after 4 a.m. sent that text, and then really it was only like an hour and a half after that. I think I went upstairs around like just before 6. I finally called it a night and decided to go get some sleep. Which normally it's like, I mean, the last time we did acid, I just stayed up the entire next day and didn't fall asleep till like 8 p.m. the next day. Like I've had a lot of experiences of like not being able to fall asleep. And I just remember lying in bed, like tossing and turning, and just when will my brain shut off and like let me get some sleep, I'm never gonna sleep again. But this time I was like, as soon as I closed my eyes, I feel like I was asleep in like 10 minutes, which is incredibly fast. And then slept for like 5 hours. Like went to sleep at 6 when I was supposed to be at work, and then woke up at like, I want to say it was like 11, like 11. So like the entire morning shift of work is essentially what I sleep through, and then woke up and then came up this morning and I wanted to did some laundry because I was like, my room's getting kind of a messy. I realized that on acid last night and kind of like letting myself go. So I decided to, throw some laundry in. I also want to get it done before Howard moves in. I think he's moving in like 5 o'clock today or something. So we'll see what goes on with that guy. Yeah, now here we are. I want to sit down and talk about this acid trip with you guys. This is gonna be an interesting one. I wonder if when I listen back to this, I might even like chime in more. Because usually when I hear these stories, I'm like, oh, I didn't talk about this part. I didn't talk about this part. And I feel like this might be a good one because I feel like I didn't give a lot of details. I kind of jumped around a lot, so you might have heard even more chime-ins from Aaron. And honestly, at this point, we're at 51 minutes. I don't know if I really want to talk about my other 2 topics. We can just shave those for like another time, or maybe I'll talk about shooting a video. We did shoot a video. That was super fun. I don't want to like spoil the premise of the video because it's kind of like the punchline. If I told you the premise, you just know the punchline already. So I don't want to spoil that. But it was just an idea I had. I have shared like some of my other ideas with people, and no one's heard it before except for the people in this house. It's just like a funny thought I had sitting on the couch with Ethan and Martin, and I decided to share it with them. And they're both like, hey, yeah, that's funny. Let's do it. And it's fun to like share an idea with people because you kind of like, I don't know, when I think of an idea, I kind of see like a very basic like version of the video. I can kind of like see all the shots in my head of like how this is going to play out and how the joke's going to go. And then as soon as you share it with people, like I guess their brains like do the same thing, but they've got different scenes in their head. So now you can like kind of combine all these different like independent films that everyone's kind of created in their mind, and then just like pick the best scenes from all of those and string them together and then create like a collaboration of a video. So it's like a super fun brainstorming process of like I give out the video idea, then Martin's me like, oh yeah, this would be a funny thing to do with this, and then that spurs into like a thought in my head, and we just constantly back and forth until we have what went from like a 30-second to a minute idea has now fleshed out to like a 4-minute video or something, which we'll see. We filmed from 1 till like 5:30 on Saturday, so filmed for like 4.5 hours, got every shot I wanted. So now once Martin gets the footage ready and sends it over to me, I'm gonna edit it together, which I'm really looking forward to having something to edit and having like a project to work on. Usually, like all I have is these podcasts, and then I'll the in sound mind that I have not done, and then like the podcast videos that I delay doing, so, and then playing guitar that I don't. So I got a lot of projects, but like a real concrete thing that I'm like kind of excited to share. Get a sketch like other than the how to make spaghetti short I made on YouTube in October or something like that, October, November. Haven't filmed any sketches, and it was a lot of fun. So like I need to share more ideas. I have a lot of my problem is I feel like my ideas aren't big enough, because like Martin's ideas are just so elaborate and like so in depth and like well planned out, and then my ideas are like just one singular joke that I think would be funny in like a 30-second video, just very much more like a generalized humor, which I don't know why I'm giving myself such a hard time. Like I think I'm funny. I think I'm a funny guy. So obviously, if I think my thought's funny, there's probably gonna be a good amount of people that also think it's funny. So why not just share it and like we had a lot of fun shooting the video. So as long as we have fun shooting the video, I'm not super concerned with like whether the video hits a wide audience, you know? As long as like the process, my entire process with it of like shooting it and then editing it, as long as I enjoy all of that, by the time I upload it, it's now like out of my life, you know? It's like out of my hands and it's kind of doing its own thing now. And then I can just move on to the next one. So I think that's like what I got to focus on doing that more, is like not so much worry about the reaction of people to the content. It's more like my enjoyment of the process of creating it. And like that's the memories I'm gonna have. I'm not gonna have memories of like, oh, this video did really well. I'm gonna have memories of like, you know, laughing and like shooting it with Ethan and Martin and making jokes and like all the behind the scenes stuff that's not even on camera. So hopefully this you know, the morning after acid is like usually a very insightful, like effective day. Like you're feeling good, even though my body is aching, and I'm gonna crash again tonight because I only slept like 5 hours after being up from 11 a.m. yesterday or whatever. You know, you feel like motivated and want to do stuff, and like if you don't capitalize it, I feel like on the day after it'll slip away really quickly. You can fall back into old habits very easily. So hopefully I can capitalize on that for the rest of this day. It's looking at 1 o'clock now. So if you guys listen to this on Tuesday, hopefully it got up in good time. All we have left today is to do some yoga, and I want to play some more guitar again. It was even watching the Beatles. It's so fun watching this create songs and just like jump into random songs that they all know and just all playing together, and then just like noodling around and creating their own songs from nothing, just like having fun. Like that's what it should all be about. Stop being so focused on the product, you know? Just focus on like enjoying it and having fun. I feel like that's a good way to end this episode. A good way to end the acid trip episode. So I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. Hopefully I could have explained and like, you know, had the vocabulary to describe what an acid trip is like. Hopefully, maybe if you were, you know, if you don't really know what's going on, you think it's just, you know, a bunch of like cracked out hippies, you know, frothing at the mouth, you know, wrestling each other. It's not. It's literally, it's peace and love. And that's all I want to do. I just want to hang out with a lot of people, have a good time, and listen to some good music and look at some beautiful stars, you know? That's all I want. So, hope you guys enjoyed this episode. I'll get this edited, get this out to you. I don't know why I'm telling you that, because you've obviously heard this when you're hearing it. So, thanks for listening. Sorry for the delay. Won't happen again. But one day's not bad, you know? You know, in the circumstances, considering, it's not bad. Not a bad deal. So, yeah. I hope you guys enjoyed, as I've said 5 times now. And have a good one. Aaron, out.
Thanks for listening. Hope you enjoyed your stay. Now take what you learned and have a great day. Damn, it feels good to air out.